Hello and welcome to this short training video that'll give you an overview of what you need to do to be a good gleaning site coordinator. There's only a few steps, and in step 1, it's a weather check. The night before the event, you'll want to check the weather report for possible lightning. That is because in that rain alone will not cancel the harvest. The possibility of lightning definitely will. You will be given a phone number to a voicemail box with weather-related information. Step 2 is all about giving a high-level orientation to your volunteers of the task at hand. Start out by saying thanks to the volunteers for their attendance. Introduce yourself, the owner, and the volunteer group leaders if you have them. Point out the break areas, restroom facilities as appropriate. Always remember, use of hand sanitizer in a precautionary step is necessary for food safety. Show respect for the owner and their property. And most of all, have a good time, but steady work will get us to our goal. In step 3, it's all about becoming a great gleaner. Here's where you have a chance with your volunteer gleaners to summarize the basics of being a good apple picker, known in the industry as a coreman. The rest of this video will give you a look at how you can communicate instructions and expectations to your group so that they have an excellent experience.
So somebody wants to come over and be the volunteer to show you how some of these bags go on. Okay, I like this kind of style bag because it's real protective of the fruit. You know, if you bump up against a tree or a ladder or something, you've got some protection here. It's padded on top and padded on the inside. So to put these on, you make an X, your head comes through the whole part of the X, and your arms go through the side part of the X. So this crisscrosses in the middle of your back, distributes the weight and makes it more comfortable. And the one thing you want to do is make sure it's not all twisted like that, because if it is, pretty soon you'll have a little knot in the middle of your back. And get it straight. My personal preference is to adjust the strap so this level is somewhere around your belly button. You know, if it's too low, you're kind of banging into it. If it's way up here, it's real hard to get those first apples in there gently without, you know, doing a pretzel kind of thing. Both of these have ropes on them with knots in them. The ropes go up over these little clips. And this size bag and that size bag, when it's full, holds approximately half a bushel, which is about 20 pounds. Once we get out and do some picking, then I'll show you how to unload this bag into the bin. Food safety has gotten to be a huge, huge issue, and you know, we need to be proactive in the industry. You know, you think, well, they're going to be washed anyway, but foodborne illnesses in hands, you just never know. So it's a whole lot better to head it off instead of having to deal with the spinach issue or the tomato issue after it's happened. Because if it happens to one person, it taints the whole industry. So, and then anytime after you take a break or, you know, cough into your hands, obviously use the restrooms, hand sanitize, or preferably use soap. If everybody wants to come in a little bit closer. And you know, so we don't forget, let's do that hand sanitizing thing, then we'll be ready to go. This isn't rocket science, but a couple of things I always tell people is we're not really picking apples, we're picking eggs. Because they are that delicate and that easy to bruise. People all the time ask me, well, how do you pick those? Just shake the tree? Well, no, you can't, because, you know, even a small drop will bruise a fruit. You'll notice how the apples and their stems, they sort of hang in a direction. So what we're doing, we're picking. We're not plucking. Plucking is what you do to chickens. You take the apple and just lift it the opposite way that it's hanging, and sometimes give it a little twist, and it'll come off really, really easy. Just lift it the opposite way that it's hanging, and they come off really smooth. That's one indication of ripeness too. The easier they separate from the tree, the more ripe they are. Now, like a month ago when these were still quite green, you would have to work pretty hard to get them off. But these come off fairly easy now. The next thing you want to think about is color picking. And the biggest thing about color picking is you forget about the red. You forget about the foreground color. It's the background color that's the indicator of ripeness. Because some of these have been red for several weeks. Not ripe, but red. Especially the ones on the outside of the tree that get a lot more sun. The sun does that. warm sunny days like this and cool nights really bring on that ripening, reddening stuff. So on this variety, you look at the background color and you want to find something that's gone from green to a more yellow, almost a warm orangey kind of color when they get even riper. You're going to usually have your best luck on the outside of the tree, because oftentimes when you get in here, they're going to be less ripe and less colored. If an apple hits the ground, out here we never pick it up. Occasionally what will happen is a strap will slip off or break and you'll dump a whole basket. I still tell my pickers, forget about it, just leave them. First of all, they're most likely going to be bruised once they hit the ground. And second of all, there's some danger, some small danger, of picking up some disease or some organisms. Doing something like this, where you end up with a little spur on there. Because if you look carefully, you see these fat buds there? That's next year's fruit. That's where next year's flower will be. So if you're picking them now, this one's ready, those aren't. Those won't be ready until next year. So you don't want to see a lot of leaves and a little tiny spur on there. You want the apple to separate with just the stem. And some varieties are easier to do that, pick off the spurs. These aren't too bad because they're nice and loose and the spurs hang on tight.
So from the apple orchard owner's perspective, you want to be a little delicate in that.
Yeah, and it's not like you're never going to get one, because every picker does. But you just don't want to see half your fruit coming in with a little spur attached to it.
Yep.
Because that's next year's crop.
And if we're not conscious of that, is supervising a bunch of people that are picking, it is visible. It would be visible.
Yeah, you would see the spur on there, and you would see a bunch of leaves.
Do you know all of the rules that you're kind of highlighting now? Are those going to be the same for like Carl that's at Dassel, as far as not picking up the fruit? And
I would say it's general, but each orchard does their own thing. Okay. So they may modify them or say that guy over there is plumb crazy.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to have to be like whatever the person who owns that orchard wants you to do.
Sure.
I mean, some things are pretty general, like how you gently handle them and dump them out of the bag and stuff. But there may be little twists and turns that they like to do at their place. Okay, so again, just kind of look the way that they're hanging, lift them the opposite way they're hanging, and they'll come off real easy. Next, remember, we're picking eggs, we're picking eggs, we're picking eggs. So when you put them in your basket, you don't go like this and drop them. What I always suggest people do is put whatever you have in your hand, whether it's one or two, whatever. I put my hand down first till the back of my hand feels the other apples, and then just let them roll off. That way you don't have to be looking up and down all the time. You can kind of concentrate on where your hands are, and pretty soon you'll get to be ambidextrous about it. So other than that, let's just pick some fruit. And once somebody gets close to a basketful, I'll show you